What's up, everybody? Welcome to South Beach Strategy. As you know, it's fitness here on the program. We love it, and what better than to bring in Saul Savage Rivera, my boy.
Thank you,
How we
brother.
doing?
Good,
Everything's
amazing.
good.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of fitness people, a lot of influencers on the program, and this is always a top of a conversation. So we figured we'd bring the master at collaborations, Mr. Saul Savage Rivera, so we can go ahead and get his input on how Instagram and social media and working and collaborating with influencers has really expanded his brand. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate. What has been the difference between motivation and transformation?
I think motivation is just based off of emotion, right? Transformation, it's about your identity. So, when you have identity, you're going to do what you need to do no matter what. When you have emotion, some days you may feel like you may want to go to the gym and you may not want to go to the gym. And I think that's the difference between those two.
Yeah, because you talk about that a lot on the gram. You're always talking about transformation, right?
Yeah.
So it's more not just physically, but it's as a person as well.
As a person, obviously the body. I've come to realize over the last couple of years is, it's not so much about the workouts, but it's the mindset, And one of the things I try to instill into my clients, the people that follow me, is you have to have mindset, because it starts right here. If you're not right up here, then, you're not going to do well with your body and the transformation of your body.
One thing about you that separates you from other trainers, I would say that I follow and people that are in the fitness world, is that you and your clients, I can't tell if you guys are friends or they're clients.
That's funny. I think I have built such a standard with my clients, and eventually, they do become friends. You know what I'm saying? To a certain extent, you obviously want to keep the separation, but there's gonna be individuals that you connect with. You know what I'm saying? And then long term, they become your friends. And I think fitness is a powerful thing, that brings people together, because with fitness, you're helping somebody, transform. And then so they develop an appreciation for you as a person, and I think that's what happens. And then it goes from that appreciation to a friendship. And then you just never know through networking and what they do, you can build something with them as well. You know what I'm saying?
So why do most people fail to change long term?
They have no structure. They don't know what to do. They have terrible habits, and they have no standards. So I think for long-term change, you have to build structure. You have to change your environment. You have to change the people that you're around. And I think if you do those things, you're going to succeed later down in the future.
Most of the people that you interact with are successful on a certain level, whether it's socially or financially. So what are the habits that someone who's coming in, who has those traits, who wants to get into the fitness world, what do they need to start letting go? What are some of the bad traits that, like, number one thing you tell them, hey, okay, listen, now we're going to take you down a road of success physically. This is the number one thing we need to start doing.
I think for most people, just in general, they spend too much time sleeping.
No shit.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And like, I have clients, I like to sleep 8 to 10 hours, whatever the doctor recommends. But if you think about it, I mean, if you're sleeping 8 hours a day, that's a third of your day gone. If you sleep in 10 hours, that's 50% almost. So I tell people all the time, man, sleep is the cousin of death. I'm going to sleep when I die. You know what I'm saying? Our time is limited here, and time is probably the most precious thing that we have. And so, like, we need to use every minute, every second, and to the maximum. So I think getting up early in the morning and starting off your day quickly, gives you the rest of the day to really produce. And if you're not waking up early, you're starting off late, you already started off bad.
Wow, that just blew my mind away, bro. So, all right, so where someone's getting on the Savage program, first thing we're gonna do is find out what time you're waking up tomorrow.
Exactly.
And most people wake up at what time?
I mean, I don't know what the average person wakes up. I would say about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
And that's late.
I think so.
So what time would you recommend?
I'm minimum 5, right? Minimum 5 in the morning. I mean, just today I was up at 3 in the morning myself. You know, what I do is a little bit different. You know, I wake up at 3 in the morning. I like to give the first hour of my day to God. You know, with prayer, worship, reading the Word, and then I get going. And then, you know, after that, I went to the gym, did some cardio, did a little recovery in the sauna. And then back home, and you know, there's some other things that I do. So you know, I did some trading, you know, and then I go about my day shooting content and whatever else I need to do for the rest of my day with my clients.
So when you go for training in the morning, you train by yourself?
Yes, I train by myself, and then you know, sometimes I mean, you've seen me. Sometimes I train with my clients,
Right?
You know, and this is maybe why you think that most of us are friends, but
I think the friends because the chemistry that you build with them.
well, that too.
It doesn't look like it's like a relationship you would have with somebody who you walk into and is your waiter at a restaurant. This is a guy that you're actively having fun with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Someone that you just do business with. You don't feel chemistry. I've seen trainers standing there with their clients holding a book, and like the person's doing that, and there's no chemistry. I feel with you that there's a chemistry, which is why I don't know. Are these people your friends, or what? All these people you're hanging out with?
Well, I think also too, like, all right, you know, I train mostly females, and so like some females.
Is that on purpose? Or it just happens to be like your niche?
It just happened that way. And the truth is, like, I think when men see me train, they just afraid to train with me. You know, and you know, I'm about to be 42 years old, and I train with some of these younger cats, you know, 10, 15 years younger, and, you know, like, I train to be healthy, not to look good, you know, so, and I think, you know, it's good to be powerful, right? But, you know, there's other aspects of training, you know, the strength training, mobility, you know, and as I age, you know, I want to be able to move well, you know, and since I'm not competing no more in bodybuilding, I really don't care too much for the size anymore. But because I like to have a certain size, I still lift heavy, but I lift heavy with a lot of volume, you know, and I do very short rest periods. It's almost like my training is like a cardio session. So like when I train with a guy that looks like me, they don't know what's about to happen, right? So it completely shocks them. Now, for a female, they really, you know, they don't know what to do when it comes to training. So they're going to listen and they're going to follow no matter what. And, you know, I'm very strict when it comes to my training. So it's like, yo, if you're not going to put in the work, then you can't be on Team Savage. Like, I don't care about the money. I want to get results because I get happy when my clients get results. Some trainers, coaches, you know, all they care is about that check. You know, don't get me wrong, we all want a check, but I want them to change. I want them to feel better about themselves. I want them to feel confident. And I also want to make it fun. So as you know, when I train with my clients, it's because the certain clients that do train with me, they've gotten to that level. Like, I don't just let you train with me. It's like
you're not bumping with a rookie.
Yeah, so I build you up, and then when I see you working, putting in that work, then I was like, all right, come train with me.
Now we can train together.
Now it's next level.
Yes.
You know,
because you don't want to hold your training back either with somebody that's not going to keep up.
Exactly. And believe it or not, my main training partner is a female.
Yeah.
Now, she doesn't lift what I
Girls go hard.
They go hard. And this girl in particular, she doesn't lift as much as I do, but she can keep up in terms of rep range. And then for her size, she's doing, it's like she's doing the equivalent of what I'm doing.
Of course.
So basically, when I train with her, what I try to do is like, I'll double the amount of reps that she's doing, you know, or add some weight and double the reps, a little bit weight extra, you know. You know, it keeps them motivated. And I think that's helped build that bond with some of my clients.
But are the hottest girls in Miami looking for you to train them, or are you making them the hottest girls in Miami?
You know, it's funny because, I mean, you know, I worked at Boxer. Boxer had a lot of hot girls. Right now, I'm currently...
So were they hot when they got with you, or you made them hot?
I made them hotter.
You made them hotter?
I made them hotter. So, you know, there was not too many...
So then they were hot and they found you.
Yeah, they found me, and, you know, they see my training style. And the thing is, when I started at Boxer, you know, I had come from UFC, and then I picked 3 girls, and I said, you, and you, go train with me, and I trained them for free. And that first month, a month later, their bodies was changing. So all the girls in the gym started noticing that. They noticed, and that's how my business kind of took off. Because I think that's what separates me from a lot of other trainers. A lot of other trainers that got these cookie cutter training styles, and I want to get my clients results and get them results fast. Because the faster the results, the more clients is gonna come to me, and that's what's worked for me.
Okay, so then now that leads us into where we opened up. So those 3 girls that you started with, were they influencers, or how did you pick them? Why those 3 did you start with them?
Well,
because you're training them for free.
right,
So you're not making anything. You're taking time out of your day, your effort, your sweat equity, all this.
right.
And you decided to go with them. Why?
They just happened to be the girls that were there. I was still working at UFC, so I was in my prime time hours at UFC, so I would go there at noon. So the gym was kind of like slower at that time, right? And then there were the girls that were available, and they happened to be all different nationalities. One was Colombian, one was Puerto Rican, and the other one was Cuban. So and they were just around each other. I said, hey, you guys want to train? I'll train y'all for free. And, of course, a lot of women here in Miami, that's what they want, is everything for free, right? So that was like a no-brainer, And then once they saw the results.
But they got the upside from it, because those girls, I know who you're talking about, and they all look, now they are like influencers, aren't they? Because they're smoking.
All of them. They're all influencers. One of them, she calls herself the professor in Spanish, and, I guess she's doing fitness programs and whatnot. And Amaris.
Because they you put them under your wing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that's what I did with them, and then it's just my business took off, and I'm happy for them. I'm glad that they're doing well in whatever they're doing, and they kind of grew from that.
And the social media played a role in that, or that was people who were there present watching you, and the business grew from there.
I think it was the people present there watching, and then also. Boxer, they do very well with marketing, so it brought a lot of influx of people in. But since they were posting a lot of my workout videos and stuff
tons
like that,
of them, all of them.
Yeah, so the people that would go on the page or come visit Miami, they would pick me as opposed to the other trainers, you know what I'm saying? Because either they like my training style, whatever the case may be, and it just kept growing from there.
Yeah, there was content that you were making with the gym, right? But there was also a lot of content that you were just making with your clients that they were posting to.
Yes.
And the gym was collaborating with them, and I felt like all that was kind of like, man, the algorithm was going crazy. I couldn't open up my phone, and it wasn't a Boxer or a Savage or one of your clients like in my feed.
Yeah, it was a snowball effect, that, and my best friend, he's into social media. He's a big influencer. Not so much on the fitness side, but he does the comedy. And
well, now he's walking around like he's swole, right?
Yeah, but that's what happens when you train with the Savage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it don't matter if you're a guy or girl. I've developed a training style that works for everybody. All that has to happen is you need to show up, and that's it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a give and take relationship between the client, where the client is also trying to get something because they want to look better. I mean, Tony looks great. Yeah. Especially compared to when I met him, I don't think he worked out at all back then. I never saw the Savage post. And then when I started seeing him, I saw his device, seen his transformation. Yeah. And obviously, not every client is going to be 100% dedicated to fitness. And I don't know if he's 100% dedicated to it, because I know he travels, he does his thing.
Yeah, he's busy.
Not everybody wants to be like chiseled. Some people just want to work out and feel better, look better.
Yes.
He looks great. I know he feels great. I know it shows on his content, and it's paid off for him. It has for both of you.
Yeah, it's paid off. He's gonna start back again pretty soon. We've had a little time where we haven't trained, but a lot of my
clients take breaks, right?
Yeah, they take breaks, but and sometimes they may even try other trainers. And when they try the other trainers, they notice the difference, So some of my clients that I have left, most of them come back.
Yeah, because there's only so much Savage they can get anyway. So they, if the times don't work out, they may have to explore their options or whatever, and then they realize, oh, fuck it, I'm gonna make it work. However, I gotta make it work because I liked how it was going with you. What does discipline mean to you personally?
Discipline, discipline to me is doing what you don't want to do and doing it anyways. So like sometimes you don't want to do something, but Like I said, when you have a certain character, a certain identity about yourself, even when you don't feel like doing something, you're gonna do it. And I think discipline is just having self-respect for yourself, loving yourself. Um, if you have discipline, you're gonna have discipline with your family. You're gonna have discipline with God. It applies to every facet in life. So I think discipline is something that everybody needs to have in their life. Without discipline, you're not gonna function right or succeed.
I forget sometimes how your age because you look so fucking young. You know what I'm saying? So one thing that I've had on the podcast and I see online is like a lot of young guys. They don't have. It's not like an abundance of fitness influencers that are men that are young. It's like It's like only older guys are like working out, or what is it? Are there no young guys in the gym, or what's happening here?
You know what?
20-year-olds, are they in the gym?
I think that this generation is very different, brother.
You have a kid, right?
Yeah, I have two boys. I got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I think we're living in a society where they're trying to feminize men, and it's a bunch of, I don't want to say.
But are they there?
Yeah.
You see them there, or what?
I mean, you're gonna see a few. You're gonna see some, but I think.
And are they savage or no? Or soft?
Soft.
Soft.
Yeah, we're living in a soft era, brother. And I think that's why, like.
What is it? The standards or the structure of these guys? Like, what is going on? This is a problem, bro.
They have no structure. They have no structure. They have no guidance. When you have no guidance, you're lost, right? And it's unfortunate. A lot of, like I said, they're trying to feminize men. A lot of stuff that they're feeding us on TV, is garbage. And that's why I try my best with my kids to just lead them the right way. You see my kids, I got them boxing, got them playing sports. Everything my father didn't do with me, I'm making sure I do with my kids. Because I'm not raising soft men, I'm raising men. So I think just individuals need guidance from real men.
Bro, is it the food?
Bro, I mean, it could be the food. I mean, we can get into, that's a whole nother topic. You know what I mean? I think the government does stuff with our food and stuff like that, but who knows? I think it's just the way.
What are you recommending for people to eat right now? What do you tell people they should do?
I mean, everything I eat is usually from home. I don't eat much out in the streets. I don't eat no fast food. I try not to, right? I'm not saying that it never happens.
Right.
It might happen on the night I go out that I'm hungry and it's late, something fast. But most of my food comes from groceries that I buy, so, everything organic.
So you recommend to your clients, get your organic groceries,
Yeah.
prepare your meals, try to eat as much as you can at home.
Yeah.
Avoid eating out.
Yeah, and I have some clients, that, they're well off. They got their chefs, so it's like, I give them their diet plan. I tell them, this is what you're gonna eat. Follow it. If you're not gonna cook, have somebody else cook it for you. If you don't have a chef, then go find one of these companies that quote unquote sell healthy food, and that way you try to get the best possible food possible. But I always say it's better to cook your own food. Why? Because you know what you're putting into it. You know the exact amount, the right macros, and I think that's very important to the goals that you're gonna attain through physical fitness and diet.
And what advice do you give for, let's say, single dads that have kids, or as far as like nutrition? What do you do? What are you doing with your kids, nutrition wise?
So, unfortunately for me, like my kids stay with their mother most of the time. So, but when they're with me, they're eating clean. I'm making them protein shakes. I'm making them, there's not, people, for example, people think burgers are so bad, right? Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, if you go to McDonald's, Burger King, and all that stuff, bad, right? But like I make them burgers at home, and it's a good amount of meat. I make sure they get the right amount of macros for their body size and weight, and I feed them good. You know what I'm saying? So I can't control what they eat when they're not with me, but I can control what they eat when they're with me. And so I try to like motivate my kids to eat well when they're not with me. Because for the most part, my younger son eats pretty good. My older son kind of likes a snack and stuff, but him watching me and his little brother and our physique and how active we are, it's motivating him. And now he's starting to lean out. He's starting to watch what he eats when he's not with me. So the best thing you could do as a single father is be an example. So if you eat right in front of them, they're going to try to emulate what you do.
You've made Savage a brand. So for a young trainer who's coming up who wants to evolve, what advice do you have for them? How did you evolve the Savage brand?
Well, so as I started training my clients, I realized, I was good at what God gave me a gift to help people transform their bodies, right? But what I realized, what was more important was the mindset, right? And being the age that I am right now, I've lived a crazy life. I've gone through my ups and downs. So like, there's some of the things I went through, I don't want to see this younger generation go through. I've been divorced. I've been to prison, former gang member. And so like, I was able to turn my life around. Why? Because like I said, I built an identity of who I was, and that really started from when I was young. Because I grew up in church. My mom raised me right. I was just rebellious. I made bad decisions in terms of the people I chose to surround myself with. But now after getting out of prison, that all changed. I knew I had to make some changes, and I said, if I want to succeed in life and I want to excel, I need to move away from these individuals. So I think for somebody who's trying to get into building their brand, they need to be careful who they surround themselves with. There's a saying that says, tell me who you hang with, and I'll tell you who you are. So if you hang with winners, you're going to be a winner. And if you're trying to build a business, then you should be around business owners, right? So that you can learn and grow. And so like, that's something that I've done well, to surround myself with people that are business oriented, that are doing well in life, and making friendships and acquaintances with those type of individuals, because that's where I wanted to be, right? So I would advise them that if they want to be in a successful business, they need to surround themselves with those type of people.
We've talked about this before at the gym, that a lot of those decisions that happened early on they may be negative, but that's what's allowed you to get to where you are today.
100%.
So how do you feel like you were able to overcome those obstacles and build your brand, have a success? A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people get out and they go right back.
100%.
So what do you feel was different for you?
Well, number one, God. My faith in God. I knew that I've always known my whole life that I have a plan. He has a plan and a purpose for my life. And for many years, I was running away from it. I was that one guy at church with the potential, right? And all the guys around me became pastors, ministers, and I was the rebellious one, right? And going to prison, I think I was about 35, 36 years old, midlife, it's like, that was life-changing for me, and I realized then, I had two boys at the time, I missed 2 years of their lives, lost out on memories. I lost my career. My wife left me during prison. So when it rains, it pours. And it poured. And so I literally lost everything with the exception of my life and my family, right? Like in terms of death. So getting out of prison, those two boys, that was my biggest motivation. And I was so guilty for putting myself in that situation and then and being out of their lives for those 2 years, that I say, yo, I got to do whatever it takes to make up for that. So that was my motivation, was my kids, and then, people, sometimes people look for things that is going to push them, bro. And all the negative things, it was just my wife leaving me. I was like, okay, it's just stuff that I just kept. All right, this one didn't believe in me. This one did this one did this. And, all of those negative things, I just used it as fuel. And I said, you know what? I'm going to excel. I'm going to lift myself up. The Bible says, man, a righteous man falls 7 times, but then he's going to get right back up. And I'm at a stage in my life where I said, that's it. No more. I ain't going to fall no more. So I directed my life to God, and I focused on what I needed to do, surrounded myself with the right people, and I let kids be the reason, my why. They're my why.
Do you feel like fitness had a correlation with you being able to get out and, you know, get your life back on track, get your family back on track? And obviously you didn't get back with your ex-wife, but your kids, your relationship with them seems good. Did fitness play a role in this? Do you think if we weren't in the gym, like maybe
1,000%. I was already, fit before going to prison, right? I was competing in bodybuilding.
so you were already fit?
I was already fit. I've been fit for some time.
Okay.
I mean, I've been training for over half my life, since I was like 13 years old, and it all started like heavy playing football in high school. Because sports was always my passion. I never thought I was going to become do powerlifting or compete in bodybuilding, and then later on becoming a coach. But while I was in prison, I was in transit for 3 months, and I couldn't do anything but push-ups, calisthenics, pull-ups, burpees, stuff like that. And when I got to my final destination, it was a prison camp, and it used to be a military base. So they had a weight pile that they gave to the prison. So when I got there, I had weights, bro. And it was all old, but it was all functional. It was enough.
Yes.
And brother, when I tell you, I put up numbers in prison that I still haven't put up out here. Why? I had so much anger, so much resentment, like for being in there. I was mad at myself. When people heard those weights hit the ground deadlifting, they knew it was me. And so like in a time when I was at my worst, I had two things. I had God and the weights. So I have an extreme attachment and extreme love for fitness because it kept me sane when I needed it the most. And so like, fitness is something that's a part of me. It's part of my identity, and it's something that I intend to do to the day I die.
Yeah, you took the negativity in your life and used it as fuel to power you through to success where you're at right now and find happiness in life. So if you could do that, that helps,
And if you look at it, bro, like when I was in there, I had, prior to prison, I was a mailman for 13 years. That was my career, my previous career. So I worked for the government. And
you were fit.
Yeah, and I was fit. I was competing, and I had other plans at the time, because I didn't want to be a mailman for the rest of my life. But, when I was in prison, I had so much time to think. But I said, man, I've been doing this for 13 years. I didn't really know nothing else what to do, right? I had no skill set. I hadn't gone, I didn't really go to much college. So I was like, man, what am I going to do with my life? And I said to myself, well, I look good. I know how to train. Let me try this out just to make money out the gate. And then, the first job I had was in South Beach at Crunch. And, bro, like, it wasn't long before I transformed the first body. And then I was like, all right, this, and then the second one. And then it just kept going. I said, man, I'm good at this. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't.
And you loved it, right?
And I loved it. Yeah. It was a passion of mine. So, and then on top of that, you get to help people. You know what I'm saying? So like, some people don't care about that, but I want to help people in life. You know what I'm saying? And the way that some people help me, so I want to give back.
When someone comes to one of your new clients and they have a bad body and then they leave with a good body, do you feel like along the way, do their relationships at home change as well? Do you notice that? Like someone is out of shape, they start training with Savage, 6 months later, they're fit. And since you have such a good relationship to your client, do you start to notice that they have better outcomes at home as well? Or is there a correlation in this?
For sure, because like I said, everything in the gym, it's mindset, right? Sometimes individuals go to the gym and they feel like, oh, I can't push this amount of weight, or I can't do this many reps, or they don't know what it's like to feel uncomfortable, right? But once you get past those uncomfortable stages, there's growth, right? So that's going to translate to other areas of your life, especially at home, and if you have discipline in the gym, you might be a guy who doesn't, fix his bed every morning, right? But once you develop discipline with your body, it's like, all right, let me be disciplined in this area. Let me fix the bed. Let me make sure the dishes are washed before I leave the house. Everything matters, bro, because you want to have order in your life. And I think when you're able to control your body, you're able to control other areas of your life.
Let's get some savage advice relationships and standards. What standards should a man set before dating?
I think a man should have vision. He should know where he's gonna go in terms of finances. I think a man, the way he allows people to treat him. You know what I'm saying? You don't accept any sort of treatment from just anybody, right? So you gotta have standards of that in that sense. What else? Finances. I think you have to have spiritual alignment as well. That's very important. It's important to me. The girl I'm currently dating, I told her, as like, I believe that you're gonna the person that I'm with is gonna help me in my spiritual growth. The Bible says the woman's the helper, right? So if she doesn't believe what I believe, then we're gonna collide, right? So, I think spiritual alignment is extremely important. So you got to have your finances in order. You got to have a clear vision, and spiritual alignment.
What about self-control and self-respect?
Self-control and self-respect. Yeah, I think once you have, if you have self-control in life, whether it's with food or anything else, I think it creates mystery. You know, over the years, I've been accused a lot of, I'm very friendly, right? And because I train a lot of girls, people think I'm always trying to get at girls. No, I'm about my business and making money, right? So when you have self-control and you're able to control areas of your life, you don't take the drink, you don't do the drug, you don't sleep with every girl, it creates mystery. So it makes you attractive, So the self-control goes hand in hand with discipline.
So faith is something that you've already talked about a couple times. So it's a big role in your life because you've mentioned it like 2-3 times.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought it up in your relationship because it's a big part of, I think, you getting with somebody, right? If you're not upfront and honest about your faith, your beliefs, and things like that, it's going to be hard to go the long distance with somebody and then find out 6 months down the road, you guys have different beliefs in God, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So these are things that you discuss up front, like with your girl, like on the first date, or when did you guys get into stuff like that? Like,
so it didn't happen right away. So my chick is my girl's from Italy, right? So just from a geographical standpoint, I know that most Italians are Roman Catholic, right? I'm Christian, right? So there's slight differences in both faiths, and so initially when we met, I didn't bring up faith. It was more getting to know her, and then as I started to notice there could be more, then I started to ask questions like, what are your beliefs? Like, what do you think? And she believed in God, right? But she didn't believe in the structure of church, right? Which it's okay, And then at the time, throughout my life, God has always placed somebody from church, a religious figure, right, to kind of check on me, right? So I've been in contact with a pastor, and I told the pastor, I was like, look, I don't want to live in sin. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to do things the right way. I want to honor God. I want to honor God with my body. You see, I feel like nowadays, people don't believe in that no more. And in my life, I've had my share of fun, right? But if I'm gonna be with somebody, I want to honor my body. I want to honor God, and so I told him I don't want to live in sin. And he's like, well, you know what you need to do, marriage, right? And then I was like, man, that's a big step. And so what he told me is and the second step, you need to find out if she's saved. And so I was like, all right. So really, he was the reason why I brought up the whole faith thing. And so one day I asked her, I was like, yo, have you ever accepted Jesus Christ? And, she didn't really have a clear answer. So I said, all right. I was like, I need to make sure, you're a believer. I'm going to make sure you make it to heaven. So we're going to do the sinner's prayer. Bro, and she agreed. No problem. And it was crazy because, when I prayed for her and we did the prayer, as soon as we were done praying, the presence of God came over her and she just started bawling and crying. she was like, I need to get off the phone. But you know, that brought a lot of relief to me, security, and it was almost like a confirmation, like, man, like God sent me the right one, you know, and he went above and beyond, truthfully.
That's amazing, bro.
Yeah.
I'm glad that that's worked out, and you're able to be open and honest about your faith, and that it paid off. You know, because that conversation could have gone left, and then
exactly. And
you know?
and I've been in situations like that where, you know, I'll invite a girl to a church, you know, a girl I've been dating. I had a girl freak out one time in church. As soon as we got there, you know, they start worshiping, and honestly, I thought she was, you know, she probably started manifesting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she dealing with some stuff, some spiritual stuff. And, you know, and I've had situations like that where girls have like, oh, I don't want to go to church. I don't want to do this. And it's like sometimes
you need to know early, bro.
yeah, and then the thing is, if you don't stand on your principles, and it's all about how good she looks and the body and this that, then you're gonna lose yourself, because it's easy, you know, especially when you're with a hot girl, right, that you like, and maybe she treats you well. That may be the only missing link. But then guess what happens? If you stay in a relationship, she's gonna pull you away because she don't want to be a part of that. And that's the one thing as a man you can't allow. You know, at the end of the day, the man is the leader. He's the priest of the household. He's the one who's gonna lead. The woman's gonna follow. So you gotta lead from the start.
Yeah, well, I mean, for a woman, it could be too, because if she has a faith and then the dude don't have it,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That may not be good for her either. You know, it can go both ways.
Exactly.
All right, so now let's get to the reason why we're here. This is Entrepreneur Podcast. You're a marketing guru, right? We got the collaborations I'm looking at. Which is the reel with the most? Which is the collab that did the biggest?
So I did a collab with Antonio Skits, right, recently. And the thing is, I wasn't even in the video, right? I wasn't even in the video. And the video was going viral. It had like 9 million views at the time.
Whoa.
Right? And then so we're all at the movie theaters, like the content group, you know, because I'm like the only outsider, right? Because I'm the only one that does fitness.
No, yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
You,
And
can see it in the content.
Yeah, and I always...
But that's why it's so good.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. But, you know, I was willing to, like, open up to that aspect, because he always told me, bro, you're funny.
He was pushing you?
He would always tell me, bro, you're funny. And it's like, bro, I'm not funny. But, you know, I have my own, I guess, dry humor or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, bro, when I see the views, I'm at the movie theater and I tell him, yo, Tone, collab with me. And so he put me as a collab. I wasn't even in the video, bro. I gained like 3,000 followers just off of him collabing. And that video ended up going super viral. It's almost at 60 million views right now.
Wow.
So that's one of the biggest, that's the biggest one.
The biggest collab you had, you weren't even in it.
I wasn't even in it.
All right. And then the one that you are in it.
So I have a few. That's close to like 1 million. Recently, the most recent one was with Young M.A., the rapper. You know, so and it was just a fitness video. You know, it was nothing special about it. You know, she edited it, didn't put no music.
She did the post and collaborated with you.
She collabed with me, and that video did like almost 300,000.
And what's going on in that video?
Oh, we're just working out. I'm just training her.
Yeah.
It was just very simple. You know, it was nothing special, but you know, just videos like that. But you know, it's amazing because if you collaborate with the right person, you know, it doesn't have to hit. You know, it doesn't have, you know,
right.
And you'll still get a lot of views. And in her case, you know, she has a lot of followers. She has like, I believe, 7 million followers, and she has a lot of people that follow her. You know, that really care about her. You know, and she went through a health scare recently, so she's started fitness, and she's actually flying in, I believe, tomorrow. You know, she's gonna be training with the Savage, so she's locked in with me. You know what I'm saying?
So what's working right now on social media? What do you, from your point of view, what should people be trying to do more of when it comes? Because you're not promoting the workout. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see your post like, hey, guys, we're going to do pull-ups like this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So I stopped doing that.
Right.
Because I realized, like...
Were those working or no?
It's not working. It's not working. I mean...
Do you do some instructional stuff sometimes just to throw it in there? Or you're like, I'm not even wasting my time with this shit?
Sometimes I do, but right now I'm at the stage where it's like, I'm not going to waste my time on that. You know what I'm saying? Because I think people are tired of people posting workout videos, posting workouts of themselves. And I think what's hitting right now is transformation. Talking about yourself. People want to relate to you, you know, as a coach, as a person. And so like I'm in the transition of doing that where I'm starting to talk more, you know, talk more about my life, things that happen because like said, I want to make an impact and not only help people with their fitness, but I want to help them, you know, in their direction that they're heading with their life. You know what I'm saying? So they don't. Especially with the young men, so they don't fall into the same traps I fell into. You know, whether it's through friendships, whether it's going to prison, whether it's going through divorce. I want this younger generation to like really be men, you know, and do things the right way so that they don't fail and have to go through struggles that we have to go through. Because if they start at a young age, right, focus with structure, bro, you don't have to wait till you're 30, 40 years old start making that money. You could start at a young age from the get, and then you got the rest of your life ahead of you to make money and live a life of abundance.
Yeah, 100%.
I think I would have dove into the online coaching a lot faster,
Sooner.
way sooner. So the thing is, like, you know,
So online coaching has transformed the Savage brand?
I'm working on it, but it's just I feel with
That's the future.
it is the future. It's already here, you know. And then not only that, but in terms of my faith and what I feel God wants from me, it's a platform to reach the masses, you know. You know, and there's no cap. You know, I can make a limited amount of money where when I do one-on-one training, there's only so many people I can train, right? And I think the mistake that I made is that I was popping so much early on, and then we were at a gym where there's a lot of athletes that go, a lot of famous people. I was waiting for that one person who was gonna change my life, right? Could it have happened? Could it still happen? Sure. But like, you know, you shouldn't wait on that. You know what I'm saying? You should still keep working. Do both, right? You know, the in-person is gonna provide the funds to do whatever you need to do, but the online, that's where you want to scale. You know, that's where you have no cap and you have no ceiling. So I wish I would have started that sooner, as opposed to waiting, hoping that I was gonna find a celebrity or an athlete to train that would blow me up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I feel like you laid down the groundwork. So maybe you didn't start it early and take advantage of it. But even if you would have started early, you wouldn't have had laid the groundwork to be successful at that if you wouldn't have done all this other stuff that you did, where now you have the credibility that you've gained. If you would have been home trying to build an online business and nobody knows who the fuck you are,
Facts.
it's not gonna go anywhere. But you went in, you put in the work, the sweat equity, you worked with people hands-on, boots on the ground, got your name up, the views are there, the credibility is now there, where you could turn around and say, now, follow me. I'm going to show you how to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you laid down that groundwork. So maybe, yeah, you could have started sooner. And I like what you said, because you could have been doing both simultaneously, which is probably what you mean. But I wouldn't look at it like maybe a waste, because you laid down so much groundwork.
Not a waste. And I'll tell you this. All that groundwork led to other things, right? For example, you know, I was hanging out with a friend of mine. He's the president of Hulu, right? And I met him through Tonio, right? You know, and I made a connection with him and one of the females I trained, right? And, you know, they popped it off, whatever. And he goes to me, yo, Saul, man, I'm going to take you out, bro. I was like, all right. So we go out one night, and we out. And so he had brought this other girl with him, and you know, she was kind of like trashy, so he didn't want to bring her around the group of people he was going to have around. So the girl ends up leaving because she recognized, right? And then I was there, and he hits me up. He's like, yo, come to the table. So I go to the table. Yo, Jamie Foxx pulls up. Terrell Owens pulls up. And there was another athlete that pulled up. So I'm there standing next to Jamie Foxx's friend, Jamie Foxx, and Terrell Owens. And I said hello to Terrell Owens, and it brought things into perspective for me that moment, right? I didn't have the fame that those men have. I didn't have the money that those men have. But one thing I did have, I made it to the room. And sometimes that's all it takes. Once you make it to that room, that's it. And so my mindset ever since then is like, all right, now I'm in the room, you know, I'm present. Now let's continue to grow from here.
What do you do with that opportunity?
Yeah, so you know, you're right. You're absolutely right. All the groundwork led to moments like that, you know, and it's crazy because bro, like it's the law of attraction, right? And then once those things start to happen, you notice that it starts to become more frequent. One day I ran into LaMelo Ball at the gas station. You know, on my birthday I ran into Usain Bolt. You know, like it's just happening. You know, and I got pictures with all these guys, and then even David Benavidez, the boxer, you know, he you know, we had a good relationship. You know, this guy talked to my kids. You know, he gave them motivational speeches. You know, so like you begin to see how everything that I've laid down, and not only that, but the person that I am. Because you know, you mentioned before, some of my clients look like friends, right? And I feel like, you know, I'm a genuine dude, bro. I'm real, you know, and I try to show everybody the same love, the same kind of respect. You know, the only time that's going to change is if, you know, you go sideways, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's why I've been able to develop these friendships, these acquaintances, is because of the way I carry myself as an individual. You know, it's not about being the best trainer or having clout. It's just being a good person, making myself available, and doing good for others.
So you have the video where you're rolling the bar over the 3 asses, you know what I'm saying, from the different countries.
Yeah.
How you came up with that? Who came up with that one?
So, you know, so when it comes to content, you know, like my best friend, Tonio, he's very creative with the stuff. I'm not creative with doing all this content stuff. It's a whole nother job for me. You know what I'm saying? I do it because it's necessary, right? So like sometimes I just take ideas that I see, and then, you know, that was an idea I saw on social media. I was like, oh, this is cool, and it went viral. So I said, man, let me just try it with 3 girls, you know. And then I picked the three of my clients, and
everybody was with it.
And everybody was with it.
I love it.
You know, and because, you know, one of them she's in the content group, and then the 2 other ones, you know, they just like, you know, they want to be shown.
They just wanted to do it.
Yeah, they just want to do it.
And I love how everybody was just part of it, and it was a team effort, you know. And I just I was curious because I see a lot of the ideas, how you came up with it. And like I said, we have people on here, and they're hesitant to work with influencers on the gram and stuff like that because they don't know if it's going to grow their brand, if it's worth it. And I was like, oh, my boy, he's grown. His whole brand, it seems like, has been working with the influencers of the girls, Tony, the clients, the gym. Like, everybody is an influencer in their own way, you know what I mean? And I use the word loosely because that's, you know, we're all like influencers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody has their own thing, and the girls have their thing, Tony has their thing, the clients, you, us. And I love how it all works together, and I see with you it actually build your brand, you know what I mean? Got you where you are today. So I wanted to get your opinion from the man, Savage, my boy, you know what I'm saying? And this has been in the making for a while now. We wanted to have you on, and I'm glad we finally were able to do it. And I'm glad it happened now. Yeah. Because last time you were in a different place. So this is, now I've seen you're growing. Yeah. You know, you keep growing. Every time Savage is evolving and doing more. And I think I highly recommend young guys, if you're out there listening, you know, you need a mentor. You don't have somebody where you're at that can kind of hold you by the hand and help get you going. Follow Savage. Get on the online coaching. Have this man put you in the right direction. He's in the room with the right people for a reason. So, you know, get on the train and follow Savage, and he'll get you right?
Boy, yes, sir.
Right, my
yes,
brother.
sir.
Thank you again for coming. We're going to have all his social media and everything on the collaboration, so you guys can follow him, check out his page, go to the website, go to the online coaching, do all that good stuff, and check out the YouTube for the full video. Learn about faith, learn about discipline, learn about social media, learn about marketing, learn about working with fitness influencers. Tony, you know, shout out to Tony. Thank you again. You know, he helped me out with my business. He's helped you with yours. You know, that's a good dude right there. And thank you, guys. Check out the YouTube.